So first, thank you very much also for having me. Thank you, Governor Radovic, dear Irina. And it's a great pleasure to be here. It was also a great pleasure to have been at the 25 years of Central Bank of Kosovo conference, because in both places I feel there's really this spirit of, commitment and passion to do the work and to progress quickly. And you have relatively small teams. I come from a big institution where with big teams we are not as fast as you, I would say. So really it is very impressive, and and you are doing that for the benefit of people and of the countries, because as you said, cross-border payments are so important. If costs, makes a big difference if conversion costs, transfer costs are 10% or 1% or less. And your hard work is very beneficial and very well done. And it's both leadership and the expertise. And in the case of smaller central banks, the two are not so separated as they are maybe in a big one. Why are cross-border payments so expensive originally? And you were saying that cannot be, they should not, but they are. So as economists, we must ask ourselves why. What is the problem? And I think it's a combination, and the two factors have something, of course, in common. So there is, the fundamental difference cross-border versus domestic is the legal complexity that you go through two jurisdictions, and payment at the end is a very legal issue, settlement, finality. It's all about financial claims that are transferred. It's all abstract legal concepts at the end. So if you have two of them, you have to be clean on both sides, and moreover on the crossing of the border. And for banks, in a world where compliance and emphasis on AML CFT is very high, this leads to costs. Banks are risk averse. They have to set up the teams who really make sure that the banks don't encounter risks, and the banks remember having been heavily fined at some stage. There was this BNP Paribas fine in the US of more than $8 billion US some 15 years ago. So that's the mindset of banks. So costs are high, particularly legal compliance, regulatory compliance, and setting up sufficient certainty there. Second, of course, you have the technical interoperability, different message formats. How can you translate them into each other? How can you achieve straight-through processing? Because domestically you have straight-through processing, no human intervention. At the moment where you have any human intervention, of course you can multiply the costs enormously, no? And those two things together, lead to high setup costs. If you have a relatively small country, the setup costs are heavy relative to your business. And all that together leads to limited competition, no? And this is, of course, the thing that you cannot attribute then to the cost of bank. If you have limited competition, banks are there to satisfy their shareholders, so they will use the pricing power that they have. So SEPA, helps in all of those respects. No, SEPA sets standards for interoperability. It reduces. It answers a lot of questions on the legal side. Not all of them, but many. And by standardization and reducing uncertainties, it also lowers entry costs of new participants, and it thereby increases competition, and therefore it has multiple channels through which it reduces cost. But then, of course, communication, as Irina, you said, is important, because SEPA is not everything, and you can communicate all the other aspects you delivered to reduce legal risks for the banks. So that makes total sense. So yeah, SEPA, I mean, it's an enormous step. We took very long for setting it up. I mean, in retrospect, it's surprising. We entered monetary union without SEPA. It's hard to imagine. And so the costs of cross-border intra-euro area were also higher than within countries. I think it's hard really to believe, but that's how it was. And it took so many years, again, showing how fast you were now in adopting it, to initially set it up and to make everybody SEPA compliant. So then the TIPS clone, I have to say something on that. And it is, it is a Banca d'Italia achievement. So one thing is it is, I think, impressive technology. It works very well. It was one of our, I think, best projects in the Eurosystem, but done by Banca d'Italia in terms of speed and quality. And it was one of the first, or I think the first, globally fast payment system settling in central bank money directly. So traditionally people, for retail payments, for granular payments, for fast payments, had the idea you don't need to settle that in central bank money. You do that in a private ACH because, the payments are relatively granular, so the total risk is not so big. But if it becomes the new normal, and we have already now more than 20% of payments are now SCT inst payments in the euro area. If it becomes a new normal, it becomes bigger and bigger. And I would say there's a very good case to also offer a clearing house in central bank money, which is also illustrated by the fact that both Denmark and Sweden 1 year ago, Denmark a few weeks ago, and now also Norway signed the contract for adopting TIPS in local currency, showing that it's really a good technology. And therefore, I have also a good feeling that this technology will come here as a clone. There's a slight difference. Clone means, I mean, to be honest, but I'm sure you know that you have less influence on the evolution. No, you are not directly in the governance on the evolution, so you have to accept in a certain way change is coming. Changes will be cloned into your clone, but I think that should not be a problem. And of course, everything will be communicated early. And I'm sure Banca d'Italia, if there are any issues, will also communicate on that in both directions. So it's a combination, I would say, of good technology and economies of scale, because if you have such a system that works, I mean, deploying it in a clone is of course less costly than doing it from scratch. So that should be another contribution. So the future of SEPA in a world where there are other solutions, including cross-border. So I would say yes, fast payments, and in our case, SCT Inst, so SEPA credit transfer instant payments are to become more important and not less important, and including the one leg out payments. There's now also a scheme run by the EPC, a SEPA scheme, or a variant, if you want, of SCT Inst, which is for one leg out transactions, so cross-currency transactions going out, initiated in SCT Inst practically, but the message format is slightly richer to include the necessary data for straight-through processing into other, cross-border. So that expands further the potential for SCT Inst. What also extends it is that in the euro area we don't yet have, or we have, but it's much in deployment, actual retail payment instrument based on SCT Inst. So we have that in a few countries already. So Sweden has Swish, Spain has Bizum, and soon we should have EPI Vero wallet in France, Germany, and the Benelux countries. I think the deployment has started. Person-to-person payment, which is the simplest part, are already working, but it should also include e-commerce and point-of-sale payments, and all that based on SCT Inst. Yeah? So it's a front-end solution now. When you pay with a card or even a card in a wallet like Apple Pay, the beauty of it is that you click at the point of sale, it goes through in 2 seconds, and all that is, it doesn't work yet for SCT Inst. I mean, you have some QR code solutions, but that's completely different, yeah? So the challenge is to combine an as convenient as possible front-end solution for POI payments with SCT Inst. And the beauty of that is that you overcome the credit layer, because all those payments which are now supposed to work in 2 seconds when you are in the supermarket has to work in 2 seconds. There's a queue behind you. They all rely on a credit function, no? So even debit cards, it's debited on your account 1 day later, no? So not immediately. So credit means also cost, no? And instant payment overcomes that, so it will reduce cost. And moreover, it recycles, or it largely relies on the regulated banking system. And SEPA payments are competitive and transparent payments, while the other solutions are closed-loop solutions, by powerful companies who either fragment the market, or if they are super successful that they no longer fragment it, then they dominate it and will abuse their market power, no? And therefore everything speaks for supporting those solutions. There's one, let's say, brutal variant of such solutions, which you find in India and Brazil, where the scheme is imposed more really by the public side. So it's not, EPI is a private company, so at the end, the way they design the merchant fee, the way they share the income, it's a private company, we don't know. They will want to be competitive, they have to enter the market, they have to be more attractive for merchants maybe than cards, so they will do that. But the Indian and Brazilian approach, which was super successful, was an imposed scheme. So in India, there's no merchant fee at all. The banks are not compensated. Of course, the banks, would not be enthusiastic if we come with similar ideas. But we believe, okay, it's a great step forward to have commercial, in principle, bank control schemes like EPI, relying on a SEPA scheme like SCT Inst. A big step forward. Another question is digital euro a competitor? I mean, is there a crowding out? How is it exaggerated to have digital euro and EPI and those private schemes based on SEPA Inst? And I would say absolutely not, because the electronic payment market is a growing market. It's an enormous market. And we should not, worry about overcrowding it with European solutions, say digital euro and EPI and others, if the reality is that so far American solutions have a growing market dominance still in Europe, no? So the market share of the US card schemes in the euro area is 2/3 of all card payments, and it's still at a growing trend, no? So we should not worry about overcrowding the market with European solutions, if yet we have a very small market share at the POI. And also there should be synergies between those private wallets and digital euro. For example, same QR codes. All the standards used by digital euro should be open standards that the industry can use for free, so to reduce, investment costs of merchants and banks in offering both, basically. Yeah. So I think SEPA has a great future, And it's very good that you already, let's say, took this path at an early stage, and the same for the clone, because if you join then EU and monetary union, you already have TIPS, and again, the transition costs for you and for the industry are much lower. Thank you.